Welcome to Ask the Authors. I'm Randy Harrington.
And I'm Carmen Valakay.
And today we have a fiery hot topic.
I'm already sighing. Get myself there. Yeah, we want to talk about Anne-Marie Slaughter's article, Why Women Still Can't Have It All. And lots and lots and lots of people are talking about
Very
this right now.
provocative piece.
Absolutely. Men, women, leaders of organizations, husbands and wives, everybody's talking about this right now. And, this is a topic you and I discuss a lot. For many years now, this has been something
True.
big because it certainly is front and center for me in my life. But it's not one we talk about publicly.
That's right. I mean, I think it's a charged topic. I would put it in there with anything political or religious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it gets right down to core value issues.
And you feel like anything you say at any moment has the potential to offend someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here we go.
Not that I'm opposed to offending someone. Those of you that have heard me speak know that usually there's somebody who's upset by it. But
for those of you who are not familiar with the article, definitely go and read it.
There'll be a link on the website
Absolutely.
where you get
Absolutely.
this podcast.
So Anne-Marie Slaughter was the director of policy planning for foreign policy at the state. She reported directly to Hillary Clinton. She was the first woman to ever hold this job. It was a dream job for her. She loved it, and she left it because she had commitments that she felt were more important to her family.
It is the constant tension, isn't it? And you are living that tension right now. You have a beautiful 10-year-old daughter.
I do.
And no matter where you are, she needs you more.
That's right. And in fact, that is what Anne-Marie comes down to in the article, is she finally asked herself at the end of the day, how do I make this decision when I'm being tugged both ways? And she asked herself, who needs me more?
Yeah.
And it was them.
Yeah.
She said, the country can find somebody else to do this job, but nobody else can be the mother of my kids.
Yeah. And I think about this a lot when I think about, I've been reading essays on returning service members and appreciative of the fact that military families struggle tremendously with this kind of separation from each other and from their kids. And the ability to knit families back together again is not something that happens easily.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
This is a big topic.
It's a huge topic. You bringing up the piece with knitting families back together, I think not only is this a huge topic, but there are so many layers to it and so many nuances and areas to explore. And since we can't do all of that, we're going to talk about one we haven't heard anybody else talking about yet. And that is the role that succession planning in organizations plays in this larger issue.
Right. I think that the belief is that really, one of the challenging pieces in the article actually is, well, women really can't have everything. They just have to want it. They just have to really.
If we just had more ambition.
If you would just get with it, then by golly, we could have things happen.
That's right.
But one of the reasons we wanted to talk about succession right now is we're working for a lot of organizations that are pretty flat, where you can be a very talented mid-manager, a branch manager, say, in a regional bank or credit union, and you can be doing the very best work. You can be at the height of your game, and there is nowhere for you to go.
Right. And in fact, organizations today are priding themselves on being more flat.
That's right.
They're becoming more flat.
So it's not that it's a kick in the pants necessarily that you've got no promotional opportunity. It's just the reality of it. So the question becomes, how does a woman who is at some point in her professional career, how does she really develop if the organization itself isn't going to change or offer her that path to promotion?
Yeah. So it's tough. What we tend to see in the 35 to 45 age range right now is that women have not figured that out. They actually leave the organization and go and do something entrepreneurial. Anne-Marie refers to women who have chosen the route of self-employment as a way to get around this because the system just doesn't support it. Now, as you and I were debating earlier, you came up with an idea that we've observed in some of the women we work with on how to do it internally. And I wonder if you would share that story.
Yes. This was a very smart young woman who was doing terrific work for an organization, but it was pretty clear that there was not going to really be a place for her to grow. So she just started taking on community service projects and leading them as if she was the governor of the state,
Right.
And within a very short period of time, she was a highly visible community leader doing her thing, kind of not in spite of, with the support of the organization,
Right.
but certainly moving beyond the leadership scope of what that original organization had offered her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she ended up leaving the organization too.
Well, and it was to spend more time with her family.
And it was to spend more time with her family. So
And it brings us back to, as Pollyanna as you can try to be about find these other opportunities, I do think there's something to this claim that maybe we can't have it all. And it's a tough one to swallow, but I believe if it's going to change, if we are to change those systems, it will be evolutionary women who do it. And chapter 8 in our book, we talk about evolutionary women.
Yep.
We think these women are phenomenal. It gives me a lot of hope that they're out there doing great work, advocating for things like a 4-day work week. We talk about Judge Aiken. We thank her in the opening of our book. She's always been a proponent of the 4-day work week. Talking about schools, getting schools to align with work hours, which is something Anne-Marie talks about in her article. There are things we can do, and who is going to care about this if not us?
Right. And if we're not aware of the fact that the negative effects of not taking these steps are showing up in our educational system and they're showing up in our social consciousness, the lack of, dare we say, family values.
Right.
That's really what we're talking about here, is finding a way to create environments where families can actually function as families and, guess what, have paychecks and have jobs and meaningful career trajectories and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that would be a challenge to this would be to say, oh, come on, stop whining. You can have it all, but you just have to do it in the right order. You have your kid time, and then you have your executive time.
Right.
And those two things just, you just have to
Right.
separate it out a little bit.
One of the things that struck me in the article was that this is not a women's issue. This is a community issue. This is a family issue. That men are really experiencing the same thing. More men would like to be able to be home. They don't want to miss out on so much. And one of the things Anne-Marie talks about is some of the men who've left Washington, D.C. in that world because the demands on face-to-face time are just taking away from our families. But I think the big piece in that is, how do we create a conversation when we talk about evolutionary women, for example? How do we enlist men as our partners, as our allies? Because this is really a community issue. This is a national, what kind of future do we want for the next generation?
I think that's a really important step that you just took. I think just simply shifting, to use a hip term now, pivoting off of this being women can't have everything, to the reality that if you really got a group of men sitting down in a room together and they start talking about it, they would come to pretty much the same conclusion.
Right.
And so I think the shift to a community framework makes a whole lot of sense. And when we see really exciting things being done, it is in the name of local. It is in the name of community. That is something
Right.
we can get our arms around.
And as our listeners know, we talk about that in a lot of our other evolutionary podcasts. So anyway, we don't have to
Yeah,
go
I
too
think
far down
the
that,
only other piece I wanted to throw out there on the succession piece that you put in there was this idea that if there was one mistake that we're making as we talk about bringing women into leadership positions, more dramatic leadership positions, it is that we have a bunch of boards of directors in America right now that are looking to transform themselves, and they have huge succession issues.
Yes.
These are people that are 60 plus, 65 plus, and they need to bring on other people, and what they're doing is they're just trying to clone themselves.
They are, and that's a rough one, right? Because we work with a lot of these boards, and not only are they over 65, but they're mostly men and they're mostly white.
Yes, I'm an older white man, and I'm going to go find another older white man.
Nothing wrong with being an older white man.
I am an older white man, so I hope
and I
that's
happen
true.
to like you very much. So.
But it would be a mistake if that was my field of vision as far as repopulating the board.
Right.
We worked with a consultant named Les Wallace who put out the challenge to say, replace yourself with someone better than yourself.
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting challenge for every board member out there. And that means, guess what? You need to be looking at different genders and races and ethnicities and educational backgrounds. You're looking for people who are going to be great stewards of the organization,
and who will take it into the future and to the next level. We're also working with several CEOs that are dealing with succession. And in many cases, one of the things we specialize in are women who are stepping into that CEO position. And so we've had the opportunity to see some male mentors who have been absolute advocates and allies for the women that they have want to succeed them.
Right.
And we've also seen the dark side of
Right.
that play out as well. And one of the biggest, where you hit the biggest issue is around that cloning piece, is that guess what? This woman CEO is not going to be like you. And is that okay, or is that not okay?
Well, she's going to probably be better and smarter.
That's the idea.
Yeah, well, right. That's the idea. So, okay, what are we saying? We're saying go read this article because it's really
Yep,
compelling.
it's really good.
It's great food for conversation in your family around the dinner table.
That's right. And in your organizations too.
That's right. And be careful of this tendency to believe, A, I've hit the glass ceiling, there's nowhere else I can go. Make those lateral moves, get involved in community. And then the second piece is, if you are looking for a way to replace yourself with somebody better, by all means, keep a very open field of vision.
There you go. So please join us next time on Ask the Authors.